Terra Rossa! Il sole!
E non ci vado più davanti.
E non ti segui tu.
Patsuoli on the Gulf of Naples is a happy town. Sometimes it appears to float on a cloud. But the white veils, already observed by Goethe with mixed feelings, come from deep in the ground. Strange things happen in Patsuoli. 30 years ago, the sea vanished from the harbor as the earth rose by 2 meters. The town and its inhabitants live on a sizzling supervolcano. But it seems no one is concerned about that. The area known as the Phlegraean Fields is one of the most active volcanic regions on Earth. The rocks under these 150 square kilometers are cooking. A single gigantic eruption and all life here would be over. Of course, there are people who watch over the dangerous situation in this area. Giuseppe Iofrero is one of them.
I was born in the old town of Patsuoli, in the district of Terra. When I was still a baby in 1970, we were evacuated. Also in the years 1982, 83, 84, we had to leave the town repeatedly. But I'm still here. I'm telling you, to hear the droning that precedes an earthquake is an incomparable experience.
It's entirely unknown when the next quake will strike the region. First attempts to at least harness the underground energy for human use ended in failure.
They started drilling as planned to use the geothermal heat, but last December we had an earthquake that alarmed the inhabitants. The earthquakes had nothing to do with the drilling, but the people didn't believe that and demonstrated against it.
As a consequence, the drilling had to stop. The scientists aren't sure what heralds an earthquake or eruption, though there are some clues.
A noticeable change in the ground temperature could indicate that the magma has risen. If the magma moves a few hundred meters, that is barely picked up by the instruments. When the temperature increases rapidly, then one has to start worrying. This fumarole is behaving normally at 150 to 160 degrees.
It's not entirely pleasant walking around the crater of the supervolcano, the Zolfatara. The yellow sulfur emits a terrible stench. The signs of volcanic activity are impressive.
So now we'll hear how the hollow space under our feet sounds. You might think there are huge caves under us, but in fact, we are standing on something a little like Swiss cheese. We're walking over a number of small hollows.
The ground that Giuseppe monitors daily in this crater area is anything but stable. The ancient Greeks suspected that the entrance to Hades, the underworld, was situated here. Their god Zeus fought against the Titans here. Today, other insidious dangers are lurking.
The most dangerous thing about these holes is not their considerable depth. If you fell into such a hole, you might get a bruise or a broken leg. The bigger problem is the gas, carbon dioxide. A person who falls in here certainly risks death. Imagine my hand were a large tectonic plate. The magma is now pressing from below. It wants to get to the surface. So it is looking for a crack in the Earth's crust from which it can escape as a lava stream. The pressure of the magma means the crust changes shape and rises.
When the pressure drops, the ground sinks again. In 3 years, 15,000 earthquakes were measured, but there hasn't been a proper volcanic eruption since 1538. Not everything about the volcano is frightening.
That is clay. I'll take a piece of clay that we'd sell and some of what we'd use ourselves. The different types of clay differ in consistency and color. We've tested them. The more runny clay displayed healing properties and got a reputation as a miracle cure. Quite a few people earn their money like that. They get the clay and then go from house to house to treat sick people. This clay helps to treat arthritis.
No question, the volcanoes shape the lives of those on the burning fields. There are 40 craters in the region. Nobody can predict when and where the Earth will explode here. It could also occur underwater, in the sea.
It might sound strange, but we feel strangely connected with the problems in this region. I mean the seismic phenomena. It's something quite special to live on a piece of Earth that is unique in the world. Anything might happen, but I am sure Patsuoli will never go under.
In the time of the ancient Romans, the earth movements were so strong that the old Maculum, the main market, sank beneath the sea. You can see on the pillars that the earth's crust and thus the sea levels have risen and fallen several times in the past. Occasionally they were entirely covered in silt. Whole towns were flooded by the sea back then. One such was Baia, on the opposite side of the bay from Patsuoli. In the Roman heyday, Baia was the most luxurious and decadent spa resort of the empire. Here the Roman elite relaxed in elegant villas, which stood next to emperors' palaces and huge thermal bath complexes. To own a villa in Baia was a social must. Paolo Caputo from the Archaeological Regulatory Body is fascinated by the history.
Those are the remains of the Imperial Palace. They are partially covered by houses that were built on the ruins of the palace. They used to do that here sometimes.
The eccentric Emperor Nero, who is said to have burnt Rome down, celebrated extravagant feasts with thousands of guests here. Baia eclipsed anywhere else when it came to wealth, vice, and intrigue. Breeding fish was a popular pastime. The moray eels of the orator Quintus Hortensius are said to have worn earrings. No expense was too great for Nero to extend his palace. The construction of this terraced swimming pool is credited to him.
These are recreation rooms. The water ran through a fountain and then into this large pool that's now filled with earth.
Every conceivable form of luxury and idleness was at home in Baia. The frail Emperor Claudius arrived by ship from Rome. He got out in the middle of his dining room. The room was built into a grotto.
Every emperor commissioned a few buildings which he wanted to leave as a legacy for the future. All these buildings were linked to the fundamental element of the Phlegraean fields, the thermals. Some of the ruins in Baia are now underwater. They are called the Underwater City. They are really only parts of the emperor's palace. At the moment, we are restoring the remains of the floor mosaic. At the same time, we are also testing the materials to find out which biological agents attack the marble the most.
Ancient Baia was situated right by a volcanic crater. That was its undoing. The whole glorious town slowly sank into the sea with the constant up and down of the ground, a phenomenon known as bradyseism. A team of archaeologists, biologists, and architects are interested in the underwater remains of the city. Since 2001, UNESCO has stipulated that all signs of human existence that have been underwater for more than 100 years are restored not on land, but underwater. Unknown organisms are attacking the substance of the stony remains. This is biologist Sandra Ricci's project.
These artifacts are the first in the world to be investigated in this way. The study of the decomposition of archaeological remains underwater is an innovative field of research. Our work and publications are the first of their kind in the world.
The team's diver gathers samples underwater, which Rita can analyze in the laboratory. It's important that scientists from different disciplines work closely together.
The work is progressing slowly, so we can't take breaks. Only when we have understood the biological problem can we think about the solution. We're working in a protected area, so we also have to respect nature.
For architect Filomena Lucci, this is heartfelt work, as she was born in Baia. From her childhood days, she has enthusiastically dived into the remains of the sunken palace. Even so, the experience remains exciting and novel. Underwater, the volcanic activity is pervasive. The bubbling hot springs were channeled to the imperial baths, where they entertained the guests. The baths consisted of numerous magnificent rooms, complete with library and gallery. The decayed world of Baia exercises a special magic on Filomena.
It is a nice feeling. I have thousands of photos of the same objects, especially statues. Nature is the same underwater as it is on land. An alga appears one day, and next month it is gone again.
When the statues were discovered in 1969, they could still be restored on land. That is no longer possible.
I saw shining organisms on and between mosaic stones. To know that this was a garden and someone went for walks there, and now it is all underwater, and we want to preserve it. For me, that is poetry.
The team are not only constrained by having to work underwater, the archaeological work is taking place in a marine protected area. That leads to some special problems.
Of course, you have to sacrifice a few things. You have to make a balanced judgment. In the middle of the floor mosaic, there was the lair of a small octopus. I saw the octopus and knew that I was going to spray mortar into the hole to conserve the floor. That is an impact on nature because the octopus had to move.
It's not always easy to make the right decision. What is more important to protect?
I am motivated by history, and that should make us more proud of who we are. We should be aware of the treasure we have here.
The sleeping giant presides high over the Gulf of Naples, Vesuvius. The mountain was very active in previous centuries, but since the last eruption in 1944, it has been quiet. The ascent to the edge of the crater with a breathtaking view into the mouth of the volcano is a fixed part of every Naples tourist's program. The Mediterranean climate and the very fertile volcanic soils make agriculture very productive around Vesuvius. Wine and olives are cultivated here, as well as fruit and vegetables. The small tomatoes that grow all around Vesuvius at a height of 150 to 450 meters are a specialty. Many a restaurant owner from Naples comes here especially for them. Lello Serace is one of them.
Salvatore, buongiorno.
Buongiorno, Lello.
Come stai?
Tutto a posto.
Anche quest'anno
So we see each other again this year.
Sempre bene.
How did the harvest go?
Come è andato quest'anno la raccolta?
I can't complain. It went better than last year.
Secondo me meglio dell'anno scorso.
Fa piacere.
I'm glad. I need about
Avrò bisogno
100
più o
kilos
meno
of
di
small
100 mucchi di
tomatoes.
pomodorini.
Well, then let's go up.
Casa li andiamo a prendere.
The Piagnolo tomatoes can grow without artificial irrigation. From planting to harvest, everything is done by hand. The aromatic red fruits are harvested at the end of July and hung from walls and balconies. As a result of this and the low water content, they remain fresh for months. His tomatoes are Salvatore's pride and joy.
This year, the tomatoes came out great. Look at the tips.
That's typical.
This tip is characteristic for the tomatoes in the Vesuvius area. Thanks to the tip, one can distinguish them from all the others.
That's how they stand out.
The passion and conviction of the farmers is saving the variety from extinction because the yields and profits are rather small.
Every producer is proud of his seeds. Nobody shares his plants with anyone else. Everyone thinks his tomatoes are better than everyone else's. They taste excellent in spaghetti or on pizza. We can taste them at Lello's.
That's how we make the Napolitana. Piagnolo tomatoes, buffalo, mozzarella, olive oil and basil. What more could one want?
This is the only tomato in the whole world that stays fresh for a whole year.
Ciao Lello, ci vediamo giù alla pizzeria, va buono? Ciao, statevi bene.
See Naples and die, so they say. And so said Goethe, too, when he saw this vibrant city, which now also sports high-rise buildings. The name is redolent of southern temperament and deep faith, joie de vivre, summer, sea, football, and the Camorra. Naples, the heart of southern Italy, is a poor and sometimes dangerous city. but always fascinating. Sometimes it seems one can hear an aria sung by Caruso through the bustle and noise. The Neapolitans love to eat. There are restaurants at every street corner. The queen of the menu in Naples remains the pizza, even though there are more exclusive dishes. After all, the crunchy dough with its topping was invented in the city. Queen Margherita of Savoy gave one variety its name. Lello's restaurant, the Pizzeria Matozzi, is situated in the historic center.
Pizza Neapolitana used to be eaten only in Naples, not on the outskirts or in the inlands, only in the historic center. This here is really one of the oldest pizza restaurants in Naples.
Lello's father took on the business and the associated tradition of the Matozzi family. In those days, a pizza baker was a poor man, and pizza was food for the poor. It consisted of nothing more than water, salt, flour, and yeast.
The dough is stretched by hand. I'm doing it slowly, so you can see better. With one hand and then the other, we expand it a little. This is how you stretch pizza dough. You push the air to the outside and form an airy edge. If someone says that pizza is a heavy meal, then that's not true. It's quite simple. If the dough is good and only a few ingredients are put on top, then pizza is a very light meal. Tomatoes, mozzarella, 80 to 100 grams, and a few leaves of basil. And then good olive oil. 5 or 6 grams is enough. You need a wood-fired stone oven that reaches a temperature of 450 degrees. A pizza baker has to watch it continuously because this isn't an electric oven into which you shove your pizza and get it out again after 5 to 6 minutes. Here it takes only a minute to bake. Even when the pizza is inside, it still gets air.
While baking, the pizza is on the stone floor and not a tray. The stone is porous, so the pizza gets air from below. If a pizza Neapolitana or Margherita or Marinara is to taste as good as Lello's, it must be made like this. Lello is a master of his craft. As a pizza baker, he's seen half the world.
I've trained many people and turned them into pizza bakers. I was told that there is a photo of me in a pizza restaurant in Korea, in Seoul. I said, I know. I have trained people to be pizza bakers in South Korea. In 1996, I flew to Japan for the first time. There is an article about it in this magazine. We were the first to teach the Japanese to bake pizza. Today they can make good pizza thanks to us.
Naples is a metropolis that has kept its charm. In the narrow streets and alleys, one never feels lonely or lost. The Neapolitans are very friendly and helpful. Not far from Lello's restaurant is the market where Mimmo sells his fish.
In Naples, 3 things are good: the sun, the fish, and the women. Look how lovely. These are the women of Naples.
Lello has been shopping at Mimmo's for a long time. He can rely on getting the best quality. They know and trust each other.
Buongiorno, Mimmo.
Sono Lello, buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
Tutto bene?
What goodies have you brought me from Patsuoli?
Freshly caught. I have squid, small octopus, some cod from our sea.
I think I've been coming here for 20 years. You've got really nice Neapolitan fishmongers.
Signor Lello cooks excellent food.
Thanks, Mimo. That's why I shop here.
A tub Gurnard?
Ghana, make that 3.
Mimo's father started the business in 1947. Today, his grandchildren run the shop, and Mimo only helps out.
For me, my city is the most beautiful in the world. We have the sea, Vesuvius, and a beautiful landscape.
People in Naples are good-natured. They are always helpful, in contrast to people elsewhere.
Il sole, il pesce e le donne.
"80 kilometers south of Naples, on the Sorrentine Peninsula, is the Amalfi Coast. It owes its fame to its small, picturesque villages and breathtaking cliffs. For centuries, lemons have been cultivated here. More precisely, a particular variety, Amalfitano, a lemon that only occurs here. Luigi Aceto and his son Salvatore come from a family of lemon farmers that has been earning its money from this fruit for nearly 200 years.
You harvest lemons with your bare hands and secateurs when they are dry. This is how you do it, see? Many people harvest them like this. I, however, pamper them, make them nice, because a lemon plant is like a baby in a cot, a true marvel. This is only possible on the Amalfi Coast.
When Luigi is with his lemons, he forgets all else, including his respectable age. Salvatore is not impressed by his father climbing.
He's too reckless for his age. He does things you'd do aged 18, 16. It'll end in tears. He jumps around on branches and poles, drives riskily, and climbs up ladders. He doesn't understand that he's 78.
My body puts up with it, and it's fun. I don't find it hard work, but quite normal, because my veins carry lemon juice rather than blood. That's why I feel so fit, because the lemon is a true miracle amongst the fruits. It contains everything to give a man vitality.
I'm not saying he should retire, only that he should be the supervisor and not work himself to the bone.
All the lemon farmers on the Amalfi Coast are aged 70 and more.
There is a real problem with new blood. The Acetos have employed a young man from Ukraine who's learnt surprisingly fast.
He's only been here a year, but he now masters the craft. You have to like it, the learning and working. We don't have enough young people. We hope they'll come back because we don't just want to keep our tradition alive, but also, more importantly, our hydrogeological system.
The lemon trees hold the artificial terrace landscape together. If the plantations were to go derelict, then the ecosystem wouldn't function anymore, and the mountain would slowly slide.
My father's 78, and for 2 years he's been telling me that he can't manage anymore and that I have to get back into the business. There is no other way.
Salvatore isn't actually a lemon farmer, but an accountant. His father's increasing age is forcing him to help out with the lemons more and more often.
I'm more relaxed because I know I don't have any difficult problems to solve. The problems here are to do with nature, and that's not like fighting with bureaucracy, taxes, stress, emails. It's a more relaxed life. Much more relaxed.
The acetos cannot live from selling lemons. The family processes some of the fruit into limoncello liqueur and other regional specialties that sell well. One can find the acetos products on the internet. Their shop is in the middle of Amalfi.
We have an express service and this electric cart. So we help the environment on the one hand, and also we can get from one place to another more easily.
The center of Amalfi only has a single street through which all the traffic flows.
Sorry.
In addition, there is a never-ending flow of pedestrian traffic consisting of locals and tourists from around the world.
It's particularly difficult in summer because it's so chaotic. Far too many people in such a small place. There are often practical problems.
When the traffic lights turn red, Salvatore can quickly do his deliveries. The helpful traffic light phase lasts for 10 minutes. His sister-in-law, Gerarda, is glad that the limoncello has arrived. Business with the tourists is going well. A few hundred meters up the mountain in Valle dei Mulini, Amalfi suddenly turns into an oasis of peace, an idyll. The acetos have their lunchtime meal together here every Sunday. There is spaghetti with lemon sauce, everybody's favorite dish. Even the children like it like that.
I hope we can raise them well and convey to them the importance of the land and the traditions. It is really close to our heart. If our family hadn't kept together, we would have gone bankrupt decades ago.
Salvatore's wife does most of the cooking for the family. Her sister-in-law, Gerarda, who runs the shop in town, is helping her. The intense scent of spaghetti with the aromatic Amalfi lemons is filling the whole room.
That's for Grandma.
Shall we start?
Gigi, sit with Uncle, or do you want to sit over there?
No, come here.
When I smell the lemons whilst I eat, I imagine I'm in my garden, in my world. I'm the happiest man in the world.
What better can a man say? Hopefully, Luigi will be able to climb his lemon trees for a long time yet. The Amalfitana runs along this heavenly coast, a small winding road that has transported quite a few people to heaven. Nobody knows the road as well as the bus drivers, who drive the roads at a breakneck speed. Jose is doing the 9 o'clock shift.
We drive along the coast and over the Sorrentine Peninsula. There's a timetable, but we have to expect traffic chaos.
First-time passengers don't yet know what's in store for them. The road that links the coastal towns is fine for small Italian cars, but not for large tourist buses that meet all too frequently in towns or en route.
The road is very narrow. Then there are the many balconies and cliffs that jut into the road. That's why we have to drive in the middle of the road.
And if a bus is coming the other way?
First, you have to establish if it's a stranger or not. Only then do I know if he has to stop for me. We try to be considerate towards foreigners because they don't know where they can stop. But it's hard work. Many tourists don't really know how to drive here, and when a large bus is standing in front of them, they get nervous. It is really complicated. Those who can leave the car at home do, not least because there's very little parking. This driver knows his way. He has stopped. He's often on this road.
For ordinary tourists, this experience can be so nerve-wracking that the beauty of the landscape is only experienced fleetingly. The sea, the small towns on the cliffs, nothing matters whilst danger lurks behind every bend. They all think that has to be at least the 100th bus that has just squeezed past.
It took some time to adjust to the motorcycles zooming and people just, it is quite crazy. The roads are quite crazy.
Jose says that it's quiet today. We should arrive in Sorrentini on time.
It normally takes 1.5 hours to get to Sorrento, but sometimes it can take 2.5.
Indeed, until Positano, the drive goes according to plan. Jose is a master of his craft.
He told me a large bus is coming down the road, so I have to stop here.
Sorrento, luggage this side.
Jose shows no weakness. The confidence with which he directs Far Eastern tourists in English to then immediately go and sort out minor traffic jams is really impressive.
A large bus is coming. Should I let him pass here? The bus is 12 meters long. We have to wait here.
The buses move through the small towns like boats. Sometimes there are just millimeters to spare, and sometimes it goes wrong.
Hey, Cicciobello, did you not see my mirror or what? Annoying. Cicciobello, you have to reverse.
Easier said than done. Jose decides to direct the slightly exasperated driver.
Come, drive. Right, more, or you'll drive into it again.
He thinks he'll manage, but Jose doesn't. Finally sorted, Jose sits behind the wheel again and carries on to Sorrento. He seems unfazed by the whole thing.
If you want, you can do a double shift. It's well paid. It's voluntary. But you have to consider it's quiet today. If there is much on, it is hard work. And by the time you're finished, you're knackered.
Between the coast of Amalfi and Sorrento, a peninsula juts into the sea. At its tip lies Punta Campanella. The varied footpaths take you through interesting vegetation. On the peninsula's coast, small bays invite you to come for a swim. One of the prettiest is the Bay of Yaranto, which can be reached by boat or on foot. The view across to Capri rewards the hard walk. Picture postcard views wherever you look. Antonino Moccio leads a team of conservationists who watch over the nature and marine reserve around Punta Campanella. It's a big job, as the reserve lies between two large inhabited areas. 2 million tourists come here every year. The intense traffic of boats, ferries, and yachts harbors all sorts of dangers for the environment. Considering the size of the protected area, Tonino's crew is far too small.
This nature reserve has an area of 1,400 hectares, with 33 kilometers of coastline. The majority of the coast is on the Gulf of Salerno, the other bit in the Gulf of Naples. That means Punta Campanella is the tip of the Sorrentine Peninsula and divides the two big bays. There is a lot of work and little money. But we work together very well, as we all have the same goal, and we are passionate nature conservationists.
It has rained heavily in the past few days. The rivers wash all sorts of rubbish into the sea. The rubbish boat has to collect it all.
Alfonso drives our rubbish collector.
The waters around Punta Campanella are the habitat for a variety of endangered plants and animals. Tonino and his colleagues take their job as nature conservationists very seriously because they know the threats the underwater world faces. Plastic rubbish is a particular scourge. What people thoughtlessly throw into the water can kill marine animals.
Close to the large urban centers, where they don't separate the rubbish so well, that's where the biggest plastic danger is. We have to fight a phenomenon that is bigger than us. We were very unhappy today because we found a lot of floating plastic.
Alfonso on the wheel doesn't have a good view of the sea in front of him. That's why Nicola directs him to the rubbish that's floating on the surface. With all the debris that they collect every day, his job sometimes appears like a never-ending task.
Ok, bravo!
The work may be somewhat symbolic, but it is important. We don't want to allow everything to just end up here. We want to collect, dispose, and make people aware of the environment. That is our job at the end of the day. The sea, the environment, those are treasures that have to be respected. But I have to say that the new generation is very sensitive to this topic. It can be depressing, but we always pick ourselves up again to carry on.
Tonino and his crew don't just collect rubbish. They also tend to injured marine animals that got caught in nets or plastic traps. Today, a trip to Naples has been scheduled to a zoological rehabilitation center. The person in charge at the zoological station is a German, marine biologist Sandra Hochscheid. She's been living in Naples for 12 years, to where she originally came only to finish her thesis. Maya the turtle has recovered so well she can be released back into the sea today.
Turtles are threatened with extinction, and we hope we can make a small contribution in that the few individuals that we catch here can make a new start.
A second turtle is allowed to leave the center with Maya. Concetta is examined and measured by Sandra a final time, and then her time has come too, back into her element, the sea.
Sessantuno e 6. 62 e 7. 48 e 7. FB 11,67.
Riflesso oculare. Funziona. Un attimo vedere dentro.
The turtle weighs nearly 70 kilograms, and her condition is excellent. Maya and Concetta were caught in a trawl net a few months ago. The fishermen freed them and informed the staff at the nature reserve. They took the injured animals to Naples, where they were treated and rehabilitated in the zoological station. With all the frustrating experiences the conservationists have every day, such a story with a happy ending makes it all better. But it doesn't always turn out like that.
The patients that come here with little chance of being freed are our tragic cases, because our principal aim is to release them again.
Unser Ziel ist, alle Schildkröten wieder freizulassen.
Of course, the problems the turtles have are in the main caused by human activities. Amongst them is the plastic rubbish that is eaten by the turtles, because it resembles their natural food. Plastic bags can look like jellyfish, so a turtle might go for it, and that can lead to constipation or a miserable death. There are nice moments when you release the turtles again, and then see them again in future, because of course there are ways of tracking them in the sea. Through these flipper tags, which are individual markers that are attached to the flippers. So, if they are found or seen again, then they can be recognized by a special numerical code, and that has also a telephone number and our address, so we can be called by people who can tell us about the fate of our turtles.
Mimi is one of the conservationists of the Punta Campanella Marine Reserve, whose job it is to monitor the fate of the turtles. He knows all their idiosyncrasies.
The turtles have to be released where they were caught. Then they can get their bearings, because they know the area.
For Mimi, Tonino, and the others, this is a big moment. The turtles are to be released in the Bay of Yaranto.
We released the turtles here because that is a special zone in the protected area. No fishing is permitted here, so we can be sure there are no nets and the turtles can swim free. In this bay, it is also not permitted to drop anchor or drive around by boat. That means we can release the turtles without them immediately being exposed to any great risks.
In order to release Maya and Concetta, the conservationists are allowed to beach their motorboats here in the Bay of Yaranto. The whole thing is a small celebration. Everyone from the station has come along, amongst them a few foreign students who support the environmental team as volunteers for a few months. Seaside holidaymakers, big and small, watch curiously.
My biggest wish is that one day we won't need nature preserves or marine protected areas anymore. The need to have a protected area means it is necessary to look after something. If civilized environmental rules were at some point respected by everyone along the Italian coasts, then we wouldn't need these protected areas.
The first turtle to come out of the container is Concetta. A few steps and she'll be free. A moving moment for everyone. Mimi has purposely chosen an area in which bathers are present. To experience such a rewilding will hopefully make them more aware of environmental problems.
Everything went well. The turtles swam away quickly. Sometimes they hesitate, but today it was fast. Very nice. It was also nice that the children swam with the turtles a little. The best feeling ever. That's the best bit about this job.